Happy Friday, friends.
Yes. I'm sure at this point in my life, I don't even know what day it is. I'm probably like a week in newborn life at this point.
I hope so. I just
hope
want
so
you to be
too.
on the other side. I want you to be home.
And I will do my best to respect the phase that I'm in at that point.
Ooh, this is probably preaching to yourself.
Oh gosh, it is. And we can add this one. Liz and I have like a couple of examples on the list today to bring to you guys. And I think that this is a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people, because we want it all. Mm-hmm. You know, we have zero patience when it comes to changing our body. We tend to have very large expectations that I don't really know where they come from sometimes. I mean, social media, yeah, probably. Well, transformation photos make it seem like things happen literally overnight.
Yeah, I do a cut for 10 days and like magically I'm just supposed to be down 10 pounds.
I know.
Like, it doesn't work that way.
That was me in like 6th grade. I remember in 6th grade, I was like, I'm going to get up and I'm going to run a mile every morning and I'm going to do a 10-minute Pilates video for like a week. And then I was like, why am I not skinny?
It's always those memes and it rings so true, right? Like one donut isn't going to make you fat. One salad isn't going to make you skinny. No. But it's also those memes out there that's like, you know, you start your day really strong. You have almonds for your snack. You get a salad for lunch. And then all of a sudden by like
17 Oreos and half a pizza,
you just totally unravel. Because I think there's unrealistic expectations that are being set forth by diet culture, by advertisements, marketing, right? But at the same time, I think a lot of people have lost the grit and determination that it truly takes when you are making massive changes. And this is why for a lot of people that we work with, we start small and we start slow because we want you to build momentum and gain traction before you try going 0 to 60. Like the coach that I just hired, he is very, very advanced in his protocols. He's not somebody who just takes on like the average.
The new person that's new to tracking, that's new to like understanding food, that for sure. For sure.
So I added that in here.
Yeah.
Because this is the phase that I'm in right now. And it takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of effort. And if you want to do it successfully, which we'll talk about more, you've got to be willing to put in the work. So when we talk about respecting the phase that you're in, we are talking about you're going through different seasons. Everyone goes through different seasons with their nutrition and their health. And sometimes it requires us going through healing phases, whether that is a gut healing phase that you need to go through because you've been struggling with digestive issues for a very long time. It could be a reverse dieting phase where you're trying to support your body because you've just ran your body into the ground, under eating, overtraining, adrenals, all those things Becca will talk a little bit more about. And then we get into other phases of our life where we're frustrated because maybe things didn't work as well as they did in the past. This could be postpartum. This could be perimenopause. This could be postmenopause, right? There's a lot of different seasons in our life and different phases that we're going to go through. And this is why it's helpful for you to have a coach to walk you through these things and to remind you what the focuses are and what the main goal is in each phase.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't really understand what we mean by phases, if you have been struggling with weight loss for a really long time and you've been trying to undereat and it probably is paired with periods of overconsumption or like not giving an F and eating whatever and in turn overconsumption, like we talk about phases because this is how we can get the body to different levels. So, you know, whether that's a massing and building phase to build more muscle, a cut phase to drop body fat, you know, all of these different time frames, a maintenance phase to like intentionally maintain progress that we've acquired from either a building phase or a cut phase or whatever it is. This is how we work with clients because as females in particular, the body doesn't do great with just stagnance. Like it doesn't do well with doing the same thing over and over again. And so unless you're trying to maintain, and then totally fine, but most people aren't. And so what we're going to talk about today is different phases that we take clients through. And I think sometimes when someone hires a coach or an expert, they expect weight loss. Like for the majority of people, weight loss is what I want. And even I think the people that hire us and say that it's for health, deep down, they want weight loss. And so it's understandable. As a female, I know that it's a very big societal, you know, belief that like you got to be losing weight all the time or else what are you doing with your nutrition and your life? And so when we are going through these different phases though, you have to understand that the focus needs to be on that phase. Like, for example, the first one we have, like Liz was talking about, a gut healing protocol. If someone comes to us and has really bad IBS, they have, a lot of food intolerances, they have horrible bloating, they have horrible constipation. Bottom line, I do not care about you losing weight, because anything you do to lose weight is likely going to be very temporary in nature, if at all. We have to heal the gut to get your body to a healthy place to be able to lose weight and keep it off long term. And so we usually will go, sometimes depending on the severity of what the client dealing with like symptoms and stuff, we will take them through 30, 60-day protocols where the focus is healing those symptoms. And during this time, a lot of people are like, well, I'm not losing weight. And it's like, that's not the goal right now. The goal is to relieve you of the fact that you have been not able to eat 80% of foods for the past 3 years because you get so bloated, you get so distended, you get like, although yes, long-term, the goal is weight loss. Right now, the goal is healing the symptoms, and that's where the focus needs to be on. And we have to respect that phase. And in this phase, typically with most gut healing protocols, you have to be strict. Like when we say for some of our clients that need to remove gluten, that need to remove, a lot of inflammatory foods, this isn't like an 80-20. This is like, no, you need to read food labels. You need to remove these foods because trace amounts of them can trigger reactions. Trace amounts can trigger, now it's in our system and it's impacting how we feel for days at a time. So when we go through this particular phase, you have to respect the fact Liz and I's focus is not to help you lose weight right now. Our focus is to help you relieve the symptoms. And then once we are able to get foods back in, once we're able to tolerate, not have those symptoms, now we can potentially focus on weight loss and the next phase. But we have to respect that phase.
Yeah. Well, and one of the biggest things that we talk about with our clients in terms of gut healing protocols and the reasons why we're removing these things is because when we're going through that protocol, we are focusing on the root cause issue. It could be overgrowth of bacteria. It could be a parasite. It could be a variety of things that have caused things to go haywire and in turn are causing all of these symptoms. But what we don't understand, or most people don't understand, is it's much deeper than that. If you do not have good gut health, you are not actually nourished because you're not able to break down, digest, absorb nutrients and shuttle them into the cells to be burned off as energy. We also see this as a huge stress to the body. And for a lot of people, they're very, very inflamed. When we can get these inflammatory foods out of their diet, we can get some good, botanicals into their system to be able to kill off and eradicate some of these bad bacteria, then we can start to heal and then move forward. But in that phase, whether or not you do see weight loss should not be of a concern. Most people, if they're doing it 100%, they're being strict, they're drinking water, they're sleeping, right? And they're moving their body in non-stressful ways, and they're doing all the things that need to be done to support the gut being healed, then yes, we will usually see weight, or I should say inches, drop off because they're losing the inflammation, because we're lowering stress on the body. And so again, back to Becca's point is like, yes, it's great if weight loss happens in that phase, but it's not a concern for us. It's not a focus. My focus is that you are putting nourishing foods in, you're sleeping, you're drinking water, you're doing the things that you need to do so that we can move past this phase and not have to come back to it. Like your 10-day juice cleanse where all your bloating, goes away and you feel really good doesn't really work if when you start reintroducing foods and eating foods again, the symptoms reappear. Like you've got to get down to that root cause and actually heal.
Yep.
The next phase that we want to talk about is reverse dieting. So if you followed us for a while, you know that we do not believe in deprivation dieting and going very low calories for long periods of time. We also don't believe in overtraining, meaning that you're going to the gym 7 days a week, or you're doing 2 a days, or you're just running your body into the ground and you have this huge energy gap here or energy deficit and your body is not able to keep up. That's a stress. And so when you've become adapted because you continue to cut calories thinking that's going to be the way that you get the weight off, or you want to go further in your deficit because you want the weight to come off faster, there's an adaptation that occurs. And when we go through reverse dieting phase, talked about this a few weeks ago, you're not likely going to have your leanest physique in this season. And there's a lot of mental and emotional work that has to be done to wrap your head around the fact that I've got to stop dieting. Well, for most people, your dieting that you're doing isn't working because you've, gotten to this place where you're adapted, but I've got to stop restricting and I've got to start nourishing. And that's where it's hard, right? It's hard because you think, well, I'm focusing on my food and now I'm focusing on eating more. Like things should be changing. But if you're coming from a place of under eating, you've got to work your way back up to maintenance or what should be close to your maintenance intake.
Absolutely. And we talked to a couple of our clients about this, is like, you cannot be in a place where your body is so undernourished, so starved, so depleted, and then want to feel better, want to, yes, in your mind, like, okay, I need to eat more so that I can get to a place where my body can be healthy again. And in turn, respond how I want it to do, whether it's losing more weight, whether it's performing better in the gym, sleeping better, whatever. I can't want these things, feed my body more, and then get mad at it when it maybe, doesn't look how I think it should look, or it's nourished. Like there was a post the other day that I saw that said, if you are working to nourish your body again or eat more to nourish your body and you gain weight, you can't be mad at it for being nourished now. Like we can't do these things and then get mad at our body for basically responding how we wanted it to, in terms of, if you're in a bulking phase, like if you're trying to gain body strength and in turn the scale goes up, you can't get mad at your body for gaining strength and muscle, and in turn the scale goes up because it's gained muscle. Like we can't do these things and be like, why can't I always look super, super lean? And we can't. You cannot be in that place in every phase. And so through these different phases, they all have purpose to them. They all have a need, but we have to be intentional with them. You can't tiptoe. Like you can't be like, well, I'm kind of reverse dieting, but when the scale goes up, I get nervous, so I cut calories again. You're never going to get there. You're never going to get to where you want to be because you are holding yourself back by not actually respecting that phase that you're in. Like what if is what we always challenge you with. Like, what if I actually gave into this phase fully and committed to it fully? What would happen? None of these are permanent, guys. None of these have to be permanent. Reverse dieting, for most people, unless you've like really, really adapted the body, for most people, 3 to 6 months is about where we reverse diet people. And so here's the thing. If you've really adapted, maybe a year. But at the end of the day, that year's going to pass anyways. So do you want to continue feeling depleted, run down, awful in terms of symptoms? And then at the end of that year, you're in the same spot? Or would you rather, okay, maybe what if I nourished my body? And who knows, maybe you will lean out. For people that overtrain and undereat, I find those people actually do get leaner during this phase a lot of times because they reduce inflammation. They reduce that like layer of fluff because they are retaining water from the stress on their body of not giving their body enough calories. For people that are like chronic dieters, this phase, most people maintain. But it's a necessary phase to get them to be able to lose weight again. And so we have to understand that these phases are not permanent. They are very necessary, and you have to commit to them, because if you never commit to them, you're going to always be stuck in the same exact place. You cannot have it all.
Yeah. And I was having a conversation with a lady a couple of weeks ago, and she was talking to me about, just her diet history. And she's been in this place where she's been under eating like 800 calories a day for majority of the days. And then she swings up on the weekends. And I was like, listen, if you don't go through a reverse dieting phase, you're not ever going to see results, because right now you are adapted, you are going extreme, and then you are swinging the pendulum the opposite way. So let's paint the picture here. If you took the next year, instead of doing the same thing that you've done for the last 3 to 5 years that is not working, and you actually trusted the process and you went through this and you committed to this, then maybe a year from now you are at your goal and you're in a totally different place health-wise as well, because she also wasn't going to the bathroom regularly. I'm like, well, you're giving yourself 700, 800 calories. There's not much waste to be excreted, and then on the days that you are swinging it up, you're swinging it up with alcohol and chocolate and sweets and things like that. And so imagine if you can give yourself 6 months to a year and you trust the process and you go through some of these different phases, where you would be at the end of that year because you committed to it. And so what if you did that compared to what if, you keep doing the thing that you're doing? And we could say this all day till we're blue in the face. You keep doing the same thing over and over again. That's a definition of insanity. Your body isn't just going to all of a sudden start cooperating to your 1,200 calories.
Oh, you've been trying to lose weight for the past year and a half? Oh, okay. I get it now. I'll start losing weight. No, because the body is smarter than us. Like, it is 1,000% smarter than us. And we have to respect that fact. And so when we have these, And then the one thing that Liz is starting right now is an actual cut phase. And this is the phase that everyone wants. Everyone wants the cut. They want a fat loss phase.
They think they want
the fat loss. They want the fat loss phase.
Let's talk about what the fat loss phase actually entails besides weight loss. Because
it entails not fun is what it entails.
Fun. I'm fucking hungry right now. I'm not going to lie.
I would not be surprised. Oh my gosh. I remember licking my food containers because I was like, this is horrible. I'm so hungry right now. But I know that this is a deficit and my body was used to more food. And yeah, you can game it a little bit, but not much.
Yeah. Well, luckily for me, I've been in maintenance for a long period of time. I've reversed up. I've gone through some of these other, phases.
You've earned it.
I've earned it.
You've earned the cut phase.
I've earned the cut phase, but I'm also higher in terms of calories and I'm cycling differently than I have before. And so I also know mentally, even if I have low days, it's temporary. Tomorrow when I work out, I get more calories because that's the way that I've set things up with my coach. And so the thing that we have to talk about though, in terms of the cut phase, it's normal to be hungry. You want to lose weight. You need to inflict an energy deficit. You're going to be hungry. Okay. But beyond that, this is where you get strict. You don't have alcohol. You don't have little bites, licks, and tastes that don't get tracked. You weigh and measure out all of your food. My food in my refrigerator right now has sticky notes on it, and it tells me 70 grams of carbs, 100 grams of vegetables, 4 grams of, protein. And I'm choosing to make my meals smaller so that I eat them more frequently throughout the day. When I'm in maintenance, my meal is double that. So please don't take those things and think that that's what you need to be eating. But you aren't also doing a lot of fancy meals. You're not really going to enjoy every single meal that you have, because I am eating a lot of the similar things because I know that's what's going to fit for the day. So right now I have high days, I have low days, and then I have refeed days. And so when I find what fits those days, that's what I'm going to stick with because it makes it easy. But you have to make sacrifices. You have to spend a little bit more time weighing and measuring your food, tracking things into your MyFitnessPal every single day. For me, the coach that I'm working with, I'm plugging things into spreadsheets. I'm submitting my workouts on top of all of this. And it's a very intentional phase that's short term, but it requires hard work and it requires discipline. Here's the thing that I'll say about this. The time is going to pass whether or not you do the work. So why not do the work fully? If you're going to be in any of these phases, especially when you earn the right to get to the cut, just do it right and get down and get disciplined.
Totally.
Because otherwise you're just wasting a bunch of time.
Otherwise you're dieting for 2 to 3 years and not getting anywhere, when in reality, Liz is about to do a cut for 7 weeks. And that's a little bit shorter than I'm sure she wanted to do, but her powerlifting meet. And that's a little bit shorter than I would probably intentionally do. Usually we say about 3 months, maybe 4, depending on how the body responds. But at the end of the day, what if all you commit hard to those 3 months versus kind of committing for 2 to 3 years and not ending up any different? I would bet that 99% of people out there have not taken a hardcore commitment for more than a couple weeks.
100% agree.
Weighing and measuring all of your food, tracking all of your food, getting good sleep, managing stress, exercising consistently, pushing yourself in the gym, drinking enough water, not going out to eat very much, avoiding alcohol for the most part. There's a lot that you sacrifice in these places. And that's the hard thing, is we can get to a certain place by being mostly pretty good. You can absolutely, and we're going to do another podcast on this in the near future around why you might not be losing the last 10 or 15 pounds, but and I found the post. Liz and I saw a post the other day, and I actually reposted it because it was really good and a lot of people commented on it. People they claim that they want this amazing quote unquote A+ body, but your report card looks like sleep is a D, nutrition is a B-, C+, hydration F, supplementation A+, because everyone can take more supplements, stress management's a C-, and then comparing yourself to others is an F. And it's because people don't realize how much actually goes into this. We're not kidding. You have to be in a legit strict calorie deficit. And here's the thing. If you do it for a week or two and your body doesn't drastically change, don't give up. You keep doing it. I know for me, my body takes about 5 to 6 weeks to truly start to see physical change of being strict. Because guess what? I've done this before. I've done cuts before. Every time I do a cut, it gets harder and harder. My body takes longer and longer to respond. It still responds, but I just have to be more and more patient with it. And so we have to understand that if the cut, quote unquote, cut doesn't work after a week or two, it isn't a lost cause. Sometimes you just have to commit hard and be patient with the process and be consistent with it. And the beautiful thing is once you get to the end of your cut and you've committed everything fully and you're proud of it and you've accomplished probably far more than what most people will ever accomplish, you get to maintain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think here you have to take into consideration that you didn't gain the weight overnight. You're not going to lose all the weight in 3 months, you know? And so even if you are weighing, you know, you're on the scale and you're looking at your numbers and you're like, well, it's just not really going down. There's a lot of factors that go into that. And for me, when I'm doing a cut, I like to see the data. Obviously, as a coach, we like data. I need data. My coach wants data. And I'm like down for that because that's how we can pivot and we can make adjustments. But if you weigh yourself once a week, and then, you know, you see that you're relatively the same, or maybe you're only like a half pound down the second week that you weigh, you actually have no other data to compare to see, did I hit a new low weight on the scale this week? That's kind of how my body typically works. It takes me like 3 or 4 weeks to start seeing fluctuations on the scale and the downward trend. But then I'll have little peaks where I'll flirt with a new number that's lower, right? But just because you flirt with that number doesn't mean that that number is going to show up every day. There's a lot of things, like Becca mentioned, your sleep, your training, your recovery, how much water you've had.
Your cycle as a female.
Yes, I started my period the day that I started my cut, and I was actually perfect because I was like, we always recommend, like, if you're going to start something new, you want to start in the beginning part of your cycle because you're more motivated. You're more, for me, I always find like I'm more creative. Like I just feel much better versus like the last week leading into my period, you know, you're like, meh, I just feel bloated. I'm craving all these things. I'm not really motivated to do things.
Basically the definition of pregnancy. Because when you're pregnant, you're flowing with progesterone, which is very high at the end of your cycle.
Yes. And you're just like relaxed. You're like, I don't really care.
Have like, listen, motivation has been tough. It just is what it is. But yes, absolutely. All of those things factor into it. And so tracking beyond just weight and tracking weight consistently and not getting so hung up on the scale, guys, and not letting the high number that happens once or twice a week derail you into being like, screw it, what's the point?
Yeah. Oh, because that was me years ago when I first started dieting, like in college. I'd get pissed if the scale didn't move one week, and I think, well, this isn't working anymore. I got to find a new supplement. I got to find a new macro plan. I got to find a new diet. Right? Here's the thing: all you can do is be consistent, be fucking patient, and the results will come. But if you're not consistent and you're not patient and you keep bouncing around self-sabotaging the way that I did, it's going to take you a hell of a lot longer to get to where you want to be. And that's just the honest truth.
Yeah. Now it's literally just in my mind, like, okay, these are the phases I'm in. I'm committing to this phase. This is about how long, like I am, although I'm enduring it, I'm sure I'm going to struggle. I am fully prepared to give my body 6 to 12 months postpartum, probably closer to 12 months to feel back to somewhat normal. And 2 months, 3 months, those are like survival mode. That is when I survive, try to nourish my body, try to get as much sleep as possible, somehow manage life. Like you cannot expect to feel back to yourself after a baby immediately. And so I'm going to be in that phase and I'm going to respect that phase. But now that Liz and I have been through years of battling with our mind and with our bodies and thinking that we're just have to fight harder, we just have to cut calories more, which would lead to more binges and more ups and downs. We've gotten to a place where we are basically like, okay, this is my cut phase. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be the most amazing thing in the world, but it's a short period of time. I'm going to commit to it. And then I get back into that maintenance phase, that phase where I can kind of pull back a little bit. I can relax a little bit. Those are when I can go out to eat here and there. That's when but I can maintain the progress I made. Like at the end of the day, guys, this is what I will be very honest about. And I hesitate to say this because I think like it sounds kind of off-putting, but you cannot have balance, a super lean physique, feel amazing, crush PRs in the gym, and be able to eat whatever you want at the same time. You can't. You can't do all of that.
There might be very few anomalies out there that can't actually do that.
Genetically are anomalies.
Yeah. And here's what I would say about any of these phases. And I know we're going to talk about some other phases too, but if you are going to trust the process, you need to lean into it and you need to go full force, full throttle the entire time. Not at week 2, well, 14 days in, things aren't moving. You don't know that they're not moving. There was a party. If you're not, but yeah, so there could be parties, there could be events, but also like if you're just seeing like solely relying on the scale and you're not seeing that change, well, like how about you take some pictures? How about you take some measurements? How about you consider the strength that you've built in the gym? Because your body can be changing even when the scale is not moving drastically. I said to my coach before we even started this, listen, I don't expect the scale to move drastically. Like I'm only like sitting at 4 pounds 4 pounds is where I'm at right now. Like 155 is kind of like my maintenance. 151, I've flirted with that a few times when I've been very strict and, dialed in for periods of time. But I'm not expecting that the scale is just all of a sudden, because I decided to cut after not cutting for a long time, going to just respond beautifully and I'll be under 150. Like, I'm not expecting that. What I'm going for more is that I just lean out, I reduce any type of inflammation, and then I manage my stress, because I'm also doing this while Becca's on maternity leave. And I just continue to trust the process. We'll see where I land at the end of the 7 weeks. I'm not going to quit at week 3 because I had these high expectations that I'd be 10 pounds down after maintaining at 155, even though I undereat some days when we're, busy on calls and stuff like that. It's like, you have to understand, like, the starting ground and the playing field needs to be set, and it needs to be even throughout the entire process. And you need to be clear with your coach, what your expectations are, so that if you have unrealistic expectations, your coach can check you and put you into a place of, hey, that's not how this is likely going to go. Like, even my coach goes, dude, you've just come out of like a powerlifting meet. We've got 7 weeks. We're not going to see drastic change on the scale. He's like, if we're lucky, we go for half a pound a week. I'm like, cool. I'm not even concerned about that. I'm more concerned about, let's get strict. Let's dial things in. Yep. Let's change. We're changing some training things. We're going to be doing some more conditioning and, walking and things like that. But at the end of the day, my body is going to respond the way it's going to respond. It is up to me to be disciplined, be patient, and be fucking consistent. Next phase. Absolutely.
So a couple of other phases that we want to just touch on, because we work with a lot of women who are in menopause, perimenopause, stuff like that. These phases are hard. There's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of frustration around it because of the unknowns. And so during some phases of our life, say I would also throw like recovering from adrenal fatigue, like, a period or years of like way high stress that whether it came from overtraining, whether it came from, under eating or whatever it is, these periods are periods that you do a lot just to maintain. Like that is likely the scenario. Because if you didn't do it, then we would probably see weight gain because of how the body is going through changes. And so this is something where we can do a lot just to maintain. But at the end of the day, this is where we call maintenance is progress. Like, that is where, yes, it may feel like you're exercising still and you're eating really well and you're tracking your food and you're working on sleep and stress, but those things are to keep your head above water. Like, and that is the reality of it. And so, and this is, I would say, in high stress times too, when like, if we're eating at maintenance and, we're an accountant and we're in that stressful time period of tax season, like, our goal is just to maintain, because if we can maintain during that, awesome. We come out of it unscratched. That's the thing. Like, we aren't going to expect to see progress in phases like that. And that is okay, but we have to shift the mentality around it. Like, you guys, at the end of the day, effort doesn't always mean amazing results. Sometimes effort means you maintain results. Sometimes effort means you keep health. Like, these are the things that we I think just get so skewed in today's society of like, well, I worked hard. Okay. I mean, like, should we get a medal for working hard? Like, sometimes working hard just means you maintain your health, and that's good enough. And so being able to respect these different phases that we go through and being strict to them, and not just for 14 or 21 days or even 30 days sometimes, like truly committing to things for a period of time and unrelentlessly like committing to those things to where you have no doubt in your mind that you gave everything you had. Being proud of that, because at the end of the day, if anything, I bet you build some freaking amazing confidence from committing to that.
You build some mental grit, right? Which builds confidence. And so I think this is where we have to understand too, like, your training age comes to play here as well, depending upon how many times you've dieted, how long you've been training, if you are very active. And again, like when I talked about like your playing field, understand like what ballpark you're in, because some people are brand new to the game and they're going to maybe see progress a lot faster, or they change things and weight starts coming off even in some of these seasons, such as perimenopause or postpartum, whatever. So understand too, the longer that you've been at this, the harder that you're going to have to fight. That's just how it works, unfortunately. But then other phases that we go through is like when we are more insulin sensitive and we have to work to get metabolic flexibility back, meaning that your body can, utilize fats as fuel or carbs as fuel and burn through both fine. we have to go through a season where maybe we're doing more of like a therapeutic keto to resensitize the body to carbohydrates and glucose again. And that's not always going to produce weight loss. It's not always going to produce these massive changes that like you see on the internet because somebody did keto for 30 days and lost 30 pounds. Like they probably never dieted before.
Totally. And they were probably eating shit beforehand. Like we completely underestimate where people start and how much it impacts people's results. That is one thing that I think a lot of people don't realize. It's like, well, my friend did this and they're down 30 pounds. And it's like, well, was your friend tracking their food prior? Do they know how much they were eating prior? Because a lot of people, to be totally clear, a lot of people do not eat as well as they think they do. Like studies have shown this too. Like when people actually record what they eat or like have been recorded on what they eat, it is, I think for females up to like 300 to 500 additional calories per day than they think or something like that. I can't remember the exact research study.
We think we eat less than we do. We think we move more than we do.
Yep.
And that's exactly why we have such a pandemic of obesity in the United States. We have food that is very, very palatable, right? We think that we're eating a serving of cereal and we're eating 4 servings of cereal. Or we think that we're eating a servings of chips and you're eating like 3 servings of chips, and all of those things add up. They also happen to be very carb dense, right? And so there's no nourishment to them either. So the point here, guys, is you've got to understand what phase you're in. And if you're unclear on that, work with a coach, hire a coach, figure out what phase you need to be in. Again, if you're coming from a place where you've been really low in intake, maybe you need to be in that reverse dieting phase. If you're coming from a place where, you know, you just had a baby 6 months ago and you're just starting to finally normalize and feel yourself and you're ready to go into a cut phase, then let's work to make sure that all things are in alignment and agreement here, that you can go into that cut phase and do so in a way that is healthy and serves you, and that you're ready for it, and that you're going to be accountable and you're going to stay disciplined and you're going to follow through. Because this is one thing we see a lot of people, air quote here, trying to change body composition, to gain strength, to lose fats, right? There's a variety of things people work towards, but they're not 100%. And that's why they get frustrated and they get stuck and they spin their wheels, because this is hard. Every phase is hard. Every season you go through is hard, except for maintenance. That's the fun one. And I promise you, you can get to maintenance and you can be happy and maintain there. That's very doable, but you might have to go through some of these phases and respect each of them and be intentional with each of them before you get there.